there, and welcome to Killer POV, episode number 51. I'm one of your co-hosts, Rob G. from FEARNET and Icons of Fright. Sitting with me as always is Rebekah McKendry from Fangoria.
Hello. Don't you mean Rondo nominated? Killer POV. Rondo nominated.
I was going to get to that. You're pulling an Elric.
I know. I get one.
All right.
Is he about to talk? Because I'm going to interrupt.
What's a Rondo?
What's up, Elric?
What's a Rondo?
Elric Kane, Inside Horror. What's up, man?
I'm good. But yeah, the Rondo, thank you people for listening.
That's because of you guys. You guys voted for us for this Rondo Awards.
And we weren't
nominated us.
We weren't
need your
overly
votes
horrid.
Now we need your votes. Yeah.
And we don't want to win a popularity contest. We'd only want to win if people actually wanted us to win and voted. Yes. I don't want to be those guys who are getting all their friends and family who have never even heard a show.
Right.
Because I'm guessing that's how a lot of these things get done some of the time.
Wait, you mean your mom's not going to vote?
I'm not going to let my mom vote.
Oh.
Yeah. Mine doesn't even know how to use a computer. So
yeah, so we're set.
My mom already did, but she knows most of the people who were nominated.
That's true. That's true. And it's worth noting that last year's winner had the award stripped from them.
Yes.
So there has actually been no Rondo winner for this category, and this will be the second year. So it's about voting for something that has integrity in journalism. So
people who know what they're talking about.
We won't mention who.
I wish I had that sound booth thing here.
Yeah. Why, do we have a spider baby noise? We could have the song, the spider baby song.
Children.
That'd be cool, actually.
But yeah, so we'll we've already posted stuff on Facebook and Twitter, but we'll post a link again on Friday when this airs. Just as a reminder, if you want to shoot over there, there's tons of great categories. A lot of our friends and people that you've heard on the show are nominated this year as well.
And Fangoria is nominated in like 6 different categories this year. We've got like 6 different things going on. Some of them in the same category, like best articles. So, yeah, it was a good year for us.
Icons of Fright got a nomination.
I saw best
for 10
website.
Years. The 1 year that I did minimal effort on that site.
That's funny. Once you let go of something, and that's worth.
It's flying now. It's a bird.
It is flying. A cool award show, though. Unlike most horror award shows that are just kind of like, what movies just came out? I really do like that it like looks at particular interviews, particular articles. It's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, and it's all fan generated from the nominations on. So
you can go to rondoaward.com and check out the nominee ballot. And while you're there, give us a little bit of love.
Mm-hmm. And while we're pimping, same thing with the Geek Nation page and iTunes.
Yeah.
Go on there, rate us, comment. We currently have 41 5-star ratings on.
Don't tell them
iTunes.
that. Some troll out there
is going to get...
Yeah.
He's going to
troll.
I'm going to take you down.
Don't take us down. We're doing the best we can here.
But if you do take us down, we're coming for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll find you.
We will find you.
We'll follow your IP address or something.
Yeah.
Hunt you down.
They won't.
No, we won't. We're too busy for that kind of nonsense. Anyway, lots of movies that we've seen this week. We want to get to them before our guest. We have an epic show coming up.
Our guest is our topic.
Our guest is our topic.
Such a big guest, we had to make them our topic.
He's the topic, yes. Originally, why don't we start with Cheap Thrill? You're going to
I'll talk about Cheap Thrill. Okay, so we had Evan.
That was our guest that was
But I jinxed it because I mentioned it.
Yeah.
So anytime I mention a guest, so this might break the curse. If our guest comes in tonight, hopefully I waited till we had confirmation.
That would be really embarrassing.
But
I
know it would be. In the last episode, we ended by saying Evan Katz, the director of Cheap Thrills, would be coming in, and then he wrote to me last week saying that his premiere of his film is the exact same time as our show.
Yes, it is premiering right now. I actually got a
tough.
text from Morgan Peter Brown earlier today seeing if I wanted to go.
Yeah. But that said, so rather than get on here and go, man, that Evan Katz is real scum for missing our show, I'm going to go with the opposite and say...
I'm going to do that. So you can go
you
do the opposite.
You the opposite.
Good cop, bad cop, guys.
I Cheap Thrills is the best film of the year, easily. It's like a wide berth right now for me. It blew me away.
It's
I laughed my ass off.
Not a horror movie.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, but it's kind of not a
fringe,
horror
but
film.
It is fringe horror. I mean, I think it fits in just like episode of the... it's very much like the episode of Tales from the Crypt.
That
Lance Henriksen, who may or may not be a guest.
Cards.
I think it was mostly also seeing it at a perfect moment for me. Like, a week into having a new baby, we have a lead character who's like literally about to kind of be evicted and has a newborn baby and is kind of living very much within himself and not living life to the fullest. And through this crazy night, things start to change. And this goes back to one thing, I've been talking about a bit on Twitter, that's now I'm convinced about not watching trailers. Like this movie, I'd seen nothing but a poster and the artwork around it. I'd heard nothing but great things.
Right.
And I watched this movie so purely that I hadn't seen I had a friend who's like, oh, I can't wait to see the finger part or something. And I'm like, I don't know, nothing. Like I just got to enjoy a fucking awesome black comedy with, fringe horror elements.
Yeah.
And that's a great experience. And so now my new goal is to do the same for Oculus, because I was watching something last night, Hannibal or something the other night, an Oculus trailer that looked gorgeous, just looked like a fucking beautiful movie, came on, and after 2 seconds I was like, no, but I want to see this movie.
Right.
And so, I do think there's some reward for holding out against the hype machine.
I'm going to have the Oculus trailer queued up on my iPhone at all times, and I'm going to try.
Ready to
I'm going to play it here when you're not paying attention. I'm just going to have it play.
Subliminal.
Sneak it.
I'm going to make you see it by accident.
It looked
breaking
good.
into
What
your
I saw
house tonight, and we're going to wake you up and be like, look at
Watch it.
But I definitely want to, Pat Healy, just for me, it was mostly about him.
Yeah, he's
and
amazing
this
in it.
role and this character who was just so fun,
Yeah.
I had to hold back my laughter because late at night, baby sleeping. There's moments where I was just like, wow, that it really got just something right. And the craziest thing is how him and Sarah Paxton, at no point when you see them together on screen does it even become apparent that they were in another film together. They're so different, the two characters. Yeah, she plays this very vapid, mysterious kind of very LA kind of character, I'd say. But anyway, I couldn't recommend it enough for a fun movie to watch. Yeah. Really good time.
Cool.
And hopefully we will have somebody in the long run, maybe in a few weeks.
From that movie,
either Evan or Pat,
Okay. Rebekah?
This week, my mom is in town, so I haven't gotten to watch my usual kind of craziness because it's awkward with your parents there.
Why didn't you like horror? Why don't you love the genre? You want deep cuts, bitch? Let's go deep.
Okay, fine. Well, I didn't get too deep this week. Actually, I did. Now that I think about it, I watched Mark of the Devil last night after everybody went to bed. So, okay, there's my deep.
Who's in that? Isn't somebody? I just read about Mark of the Devil.
It was Mark of the Devil is. It was made kind of in the vein of Witchfinder General. I think it was 1970, and it's the basic kind of witch torture film. But it was Witchfinder General, sleazier with more gore and kind of grittier and not as pretty as Witchfinder General.
Is pretty gritty though. I always thought it's surprisingly gritty for a period piece.
But what's weird is I'd always heard that Michael Reeves, who directed Witchfinder General, was actually supposed to direct Mark of the Devil too, but then he passed away. And this might sound a little crass. Do we say passed away when somebody hangs themselves? And this, I'm not even saying this flippantly. I'm saying passed away sounds like somebody eloquently went into light, somebody who actually takes it. Always sounds more aggressive. In his sleep. But
I don't know. I mean, it always seems like quite an apolitical act.
Trying to be polite.
Okay. Do people still say that?
I didn't know that though. Is that what happened to that director?
Correct me if I'm wrong. People on it. Yeah, he definitely offed himself.
But I think
no idea. But most people said it was that he, and I don't know the method of destruction, but he killed himself shortly after Witchfinder General, which kind of had corrupted his career because it made him seem more. He had Vincent Price raping people. So after
he'd made something before that. I can't remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember what the prior one was.
No, I'm just curious. Turns of phrases are funny. It's like when it sounds so. Oh yeah, that person. It sounds like an old person went gently into the night. Right. Yeah. They passed away. Anyway.
But if you're into some gritty exploitation, grindhousey, nun rapey type stuff, I highly recommend Mark of the Devil. It was kind of infamous because when they showed it in the theaters, they passed out vomit bags.
Oh, right.
And
I have one of those.
They did reprints of them that they put out with the new edition. Cheesy Flicks, the company, when they reprinted it a couple of years ago, they printed vomit bags with it. But I have one of the original ones, and it's yellowed and everything, but it's really cool.
It vomited in it?
No, there is no vomit in it. It stayed clean.
So like vanilla.
So that was my deep cut for the week. I'll go deeper next week, kids. I promise. When I get a little bit more blue.
I went deep enough for the both of us.
Deep enough. So
you want to go one?
Yeah. But I got two more. I'm not done yet. I got two more. So I've had to keep it a little bit more family friendly this week, but that doesn't mean I'm not watching horror. So
Bubble Guppies.
I did watch a lot of Bubble Guppies, but that's much more of my daughter. But I watched Grand Piano a couple of nights ago.
Cool. Yeah, it's a good one.
I'll call it fringe horror because it's much more of a thriller, but I really liked it. It don't go into it expecting a horror film, but it's definitely a taut enough thriller that it could apply.
Yeah, very De Palma-esque. If you like De Palma's kind of horror, if you consider that horror, then that's kind of what you should expect.
Yeah, and it's on Amazon right now for their VOD. So yeah, that was really good.
It is?
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it.
But you still have to pay, yeah.
Yeah, you still have to pay. And then
Is that Spectrovision?
Yeah, that's
it's Elijah Woods.
I think so. Yeah,
that's Elijah Woods. So, and then this week, because I'd been telling my mom forever about how wonderful The Conjuring was, and she's a horror fan. So this week I finally got her to watch The Conjuring, and it was so nice seeing it through someone else's eyes because I got to go back and rewatch it, and the jump scares all worked on me again, and I was still sitting on the floor, hiding my face. But watching her watch it was the biggest treat because she was scared out of her mind and loved every minute of it. And at the end, she was like, that was the scariest movie I've ever seen. And it was just awesome to watch it like that.
Yeah, very effective. I think I said it on the show the last time I watched it at home. Like I had all the lights off. I watched it at night. And, you know, I mean, I know the main creature is Joe Bishara.
It's Joe, but still, it's scary.
I actually had trouble sleeping that night. And I'm like, oh, God damn it. I know these guys. It's not scary, but why am I freaking out right now?
Yeah, the scene where he's up on top of the armoire where you see the girl saying, she's like got her mouth agape, and then you see Joe up on top of the armoire, and I screamed and Mom screamed, and it's so startling. Yeah, but it's Joe.
Yeah, but it's very effective.
It's so effective.
Also, the scare where a very early scare where one of them can't see, the husband can't see the hanging witch outside.
Oh, that's a good one,
it's just a nice moment that really it conjures that spirit. There you go.
Yeah. There are just so many cool moments.
I will also say this about Vera Farmiga, and I don't mean to hurt your feelings about Bates Motel, but I will say this: watching it this last week, I was struck with this feeling of Vera Farmiga's work in that show reminds me if you put like Matthew McConaughey's True Detective work, but put it back in like 13 going on 30 or something, like one of his worst like comedy. It's just like the tone of the rest of the show. You know, besides, Freddie Highmore is doing a good job, and Vera Farmiga is like blowing it knocking it out of the park, but within a story structure that's just so like and plain and like kind of generic.
I'm gonna get to TV because I have a whole TV section that I want to say.
But I will say, just because we're talking about Vera, is just like she's doing great work in that show, and she's building a really interesting character, and that's pretty much the only thing keeping me watching it. And Hannibal is amazing, blah, blah, blah. Okay,
I didn't even need TV. We'll get to TV because I have that.
You go. I've got 3 movies.
I'll just do 2 quick movies and then we'll cut to TV stuff. But Pieces played at the New Beverly this past weekend.
Oh, yeah. How was it?
One of my favorite movies of all time. It's amazing. It's not, it's a horror movie, but if you're listening to the show, hopefully you've seen Pieces. It defies, it's not good, it's not bad. It's just its own thing. There is no movie like it.
But it has good parts. Like the opening is honestly one of my favorite openings, not even on a comic level, just a great opening of a movie.
There's a lot of unintentional humor to it, but at the same time, there's some really amazing set pieces. Like a lot of the murder set pieces, as ridiculous as setting up a waterbed in the school is, that kill is actually really beautifully shot and an amazing scene. But yeah, I'd never seen it in the movie theaters before. New Bev did a midnight screening of it as part of their Grindhouse monthly thing. And it was a pretty packed house, half of which had not seen it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
It played, so it was 10 times better than I've ever seen it. It was just so much fun, so amazing. And the fun thing about the communal experience, seeing films like that with an audience, is you can watch a movie a dozen times on video, but there's certain things that only as a group you would find funny. And there's one instance where there's a shot. It's a pretty long shot. It doesn't cut, where you're just watching the killer's gloved hands put like puzzle pieces together. Mm-hmm. And it's like 2 minutes long. And right towards the end, the last puzzle piece, like because of his gloves, he's having trouble and he can't get it to fit. And it's something that you never really notice, but like, the audience just lost it. We were all like laughing at him trying to get this last piece. Oh, and then when it went in, it was like, applause and everything. So that's the fun thing about seeing movies like that on the big screen. And it was a lot of fun.
The only reason I didn't go, I came so close to it.
I know,
but I had seen it on the big screen first time I saw it, and because of Ant Timpson, the New Zealand guy, at I think it was like Nomathon 2 or something, like so it's part of a 24-hour thing, and it just blew, it's so funny.
Yeah, it's such a fun film. You should see it no matter what. I believe Grindhouse Releasing is doing a new 4K restoration for a Blu-ray release along with The Beyond and Cannibal Holocaust.
It's so cool that they're finally going blue on those films.
Yeah.
Especially The Beyond. I mean, it's just a great looking movie.
Yeah, but you'd have to just see the movie any way you slice it. And also another one, this isn't really horror, but I think it definitely fits into what our fans like. I picked up Crimewave, Sam Raimi's lost follow-up to Evil Dead that Shout Factory
It's lost, or what do you mean?
Here, it never came out here officially until the last couple of months.
Really?
Yeah, it was Sam Raimi's film that he did immediately after Evil Dead. Coen Brothers wrote it. Bruce Campbell's in it. He's got a small role, even though he was originally intended to be the lead. Shout Factory did an amazing job with it. I'd never heard of it. It's more of a comedy than anything, like a screwball kind of comedy. But I love it. There's a great interview with Bruce Campbell on the special features where he pretty much says Evil Dead was our success story and Crimewave was our failure, that we had to have them both to understand this business, because Sam Raimi's disowned the film. They just had so much trouble with it, and they go into a lot of the production history on the special features and stuff.
Did it never come to VHS here?
I don't, you know what? It might have. All I know is for years and years and years, it was impossible to find in the US. And in fact, up until the last couple of years, the only way I saw it was like, you'd have to get like a Japanese import of the DVD. Wow. So I don't even think it made it to VHS. One of our listeners can probably correct me, but all I know is that I've never been able to find it. It's always been one of those bootleg stables at, at conventions and stuff like that. But I mean, it's a very Coen Brothers-esque crime comedy.
Yeah, that's right, Rob. But I've been here the whole time. I've been listening to Rob the whole time.
But with that Three Stooges style, kind of slapstick humor, it's just a really interesting film. I can understand because of the negative experience why those guys disown it.
Wasn't Bruce meant to be the lead?
Bruce was meant to be the lead.
And what studio didn't want
it? Which I said when you walked out of the room.
I've been here the whole time.
He's been here. He never left.
The whole time.
Yeah, he talks about it. He actually did a commentary, which I haven't gotten to yet, but there's an interview with him on the disc where he goes into detail saying how, Evil Dead was their success. This was their failure. They had to do both. Like, they all almost quit the business. Like, all of them. They were like, if this is what dealing with Hollywood's like, then fuck this, we're out.
It has that great actor who's just kicks from Blade Runner. Wake up, time to die. That guy.
Byron James. Byron James from The Horror Show. And also from Pieces, Paul L. Smith, who played Willard in Pieces and Bluto in the in the Popeye movie.
And he was in a whole bunch of Spanish, I remember these Spanish action comedy movies growing up with the blonde guy, and they were like a team.
It's a really bizarre movie. The two of them, those two guys, are like hitmen, but
their stuff's good.
They're exterminators, but it's like exterminators all sizes, implying that you can hire them for rats or for people.
Right.
So the main character hires them to kill his boss or something like that. And the weird thing is Paul L. Smith, the guy from Pieces, is completely redubbed. I don't know what the story is behind that. It's probably in the commentary.
Yeah, because I think it's happened in other movies. So he must be Italian because he's always dubbed. In the American films, he's always being dubbed because I've seen it in multiple. But I will say, this is interesting that you bring that film up because I had the exact same issue with that I had with the original Scanners when I saw both those films when I was young, Crimewave, is the problem just like wrong casting. It's just like you're watching a movie and you're like, this movie could have been really good, but this lead actor is so uncharismatic that I'm out of the movie. And I had the same thing when I first saw Scanners, and then I remember seeing Crimewave going, oh man, who's this guy? And and then you see Bruce in one role and you're like,
Bruce is great in it.
I mean, the heel. He plays the heel.
That's the thing, is that he hams it up because he knows, all of their sensibilities are just flying out in the movie. It's just that it's not focused because of, producer interference. But Shout Factory put it out. It's like $15. It's a DVD Blu-ray combo, and it's totally worth checking out because there's enough stuff that made me laugh out loud that is so Coen Brothers / Raimi.
So Raimi's had 3 bad studio interference films. He's had that, Darkman, and Spider-Man 3.
And you know what? I'd have to look it up again, but if you look on the IMDb for Crimewave, there's like a little like trivia facts and stuff. There were 2 things that they pointed out on IMDb that he reused in Spider-Man, which I thought were hilarious. Two bits of dialogue and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, cool. At least he got something out of it.
He's aware of it.
So yeah, that was Crimewave. Cool. Anybody else see anything else?
I saw 3 movies. Yeah, I think.
All right, do it.
I'll be jumping to the bit. All right, here goes. So 2 of the 3 Killer POV hosts flaked on seeing Shock.
Oh, yeah.
On 16mm. Shock is a film that when I was young, it's Mario Bava's last film, and it's Lamberto Bava's first, essentially, because he actually did some of the directing duties on the film. It's a film I didn't like much when I first saw it. It's on the other side of Possession, drinking game. And so I didn't wear out that side of my disc as much, but I watched it once, and I think I was too young for it because it's really a psychodrama. It's a possession film, but it's really about an emotional breakdown of Daria Nicolaides' character, Dario Argento's ex-wife. She easily the performance of her career. Watching it this time with the crowd, the first half still wasn't that great and kind of clunky, and the second half is just absolutely superb. Like, it's a perfect second half of the film. It goes way dreamy, everything. It's all of Bava's strengths, filming dream sequences, flashbacks that are really strange, crazy Edgar Allan Poe things like with a body in a buried underneath a wall. Just a beautiful score. Like, highly recommend people checking it out. It's available more than just that disc now. It's, I think, on a 3-pack from Shot. Also, it was called Beyond the Door 2. in America. And we were trying to figure out, it was kind of funny. I'm having a conversation with one of our regulars, like, oh, why is it called that? And I'm kind of bullshitting my way through it. And then Sam Raimi's editor, Bob Murawski, who runs Grindhouse, just turns around and goes, well, actually, and like has the full answer because he's a fucking genius and knows everything about Grindhouse movies. But it was superficially, it was purely a money-making thing. Hey, it's a possession kid film. The films could not be tonally more different. I mean, one is kind of silly and campy, and the other one's this really straight film. But the one interesting connection was, what's the kid's name? David Collins Jr., I just researched this before I came, is actually the possessed kid in both films.
Oh, wow.
And the films have nothing to do with each other. So this one little boy was in 2 movies in his life.
Wow.
They were not connected, but they got given the same sequel name. That was pretty bizarre. Really good film. Then I have 2 films on the list that I'd been working to try to find for a long time. One of them was given to me by Jarrett from your trivia team. Yeah. And it's called Vi, V-I-Y. I wanted to see it.
Amazing. Dave and it was a chapter in our book.
Oh, it was. Okay. Well, what I was going to say about this film is I was really I wanted to see it because of Blood on Satan's Claw. It's a Nikolai Gogol story, who's kind of, a famous Russian writer, but it's a Ukrainian folk story, which is very topical right now, Ukraine. The thing about it is, for me, it was like nothing happened for 75 minutes and then 10 minutes of absolute cinematic perfection. It's all about, it's basically a priest, a young priest who is takes religion kind of flippantly, ends up having to see over this woman's burial for 3 days. As she's dead, she's a beautiful woman who basically comes back to life each night and tries to not seduce him, but make him kind of go against his vows. And on the 3rd night, it just goes, which is the end of the film, it just goes batshit crazy with some of the most effects that you were not ready for this film to have. Incredible, basically hell opens up and these creatures come out, and witches and ghouls, and this amazing big kind of rock monster which is Vi, which is this character comes in, and it's really worth watching for that. I found the first part of it pretty hard to get through and kind of clunky rush, it's just something about it. Maybe the tone was a little weird. I then researched afterwards for nerds. Apparently Bava's Black Sunday is also loosely based on the exact same Vi story. Which is interesting. So, I wouldn't, for me, it wasn't a must-see, but the ending was amazing. And then the other one.
Hold on, I'll give you some interesting facts about Vi here. Well, one, it was a communist Russia film, which is why it's so critical of Christianity and everything. Right. So it's much more of a commentary. But Vi was actually remade a couple of years ago as this elaborate 3D multi-million-dollar film, which I had the pleasure of seeing a couple of times at AFM. And because we were doing a lot of research on it, the producers let us talk to them, and we got to see the whole thing. And the film is amazing, but they're having a lot of problems getting distribution here in the US, probably because it doesn't have any names in the cast. It's mostly a British cast, and it's no one who's well known here in the States, but it's got some of the same sequences. It's not quite as, to hell with Christianity type. It's got a lot more to it, but it is so beautifully done. And I'm really hoping, but I mean, it's become their problem is, this is a huge, expensive film.
Has to be seen in theaters with 3D, et cetera,
and they can't get that type of huge theatrical distribution yet. So I'm hoping it comes out at some point. It's amazing.
And the last one is a real testament to our listeners, because a movie I'd wanted to see now for about a few months, as soon as I saw this obscure list. Michel Sauvé, the filmmaker, who I really just that one brief period of 4 films, I really think he's one of the most interesting directors in the world. On the show last week, I was like, oh, I can't find The Sect. It doesn't seem to exist in America. By the time the show finished, Jim Coons had burned me a disc of that, had burned both discs of what Becca was looking for, Cafe Flesh.
That I was looking for, Cafe Flesh and Panorama.
I mean, this might be, I hope he doesn't get arrested for this.
But, within minutes, he had me copies.
He had a copy of The Sect at Jump Cut for me when I got there.
What am I looking for?
Yeah, exactly. And it was a thrill, but I watched it last night, and really interesting. A couple things about Sauvé. He, basically was the assistant director on a couple Argento films, Tenebra, also on Lamberto Bava's Demons, both of them, and then basically made the famous documentary on Argento, The World of Horror.
Yeah.
He then got to make, this was his 3rd feature, and I could not tell you why this film is not available here like the others, because this film's far superior than The Church. The Church is beautifully made, but it never really goes anywhere. This film is really weird. This film is basically like Inferno in terms of that kind of dream logic where you don't know what you're watching, but you want to keep watching. Has that exact look of Inferno, but then it kind of, the last half goes Rosemary's Baby, It's about a kind of Manson-like cult in the opening scene in the 70s. Then it flash forwards like 30 years, and we're basically with this woman who has been chosen by a group to, you assume, birth the Antichrist. And I'm kid you not that I'm 90% sure, unless I was high, and I don't get high, that there was an albatross making love to her in one scene. An albatross love scene that was just I think it's an albatross. That's why only thing I could be wrong about is the bird type. It could have been a pelican, but it didn't have...
a crane, a heron, we don't know.
Actually, it could have been a crane. You could be on something. Either way, this film is flat out gorgeous, and this is the film he made just before Cemetery Man. It was the end of his Argento collaboration, who produced it, and it has all the hallmarks of an Argento film in terms of the look and feel. It's just great, and this is a great copy that I got, so happy to lend it to you guys. But it just makes me really excited to realize there was like this young voice who was coming up and who really was just making great movies, and then something I guess happened in his personal life and he kind of withdrew from movies for a while, and I guess now he's kind of come back through TV, and I don't know, I'd heard he was going to make another horror film. I don't know if there's anyone in Italy who's listening to the show. Ciao, Bella. But other than that, I couldn't ask you anything. But anyway, it's a really great film. So the Sect, La Setta, has some really creepy imagery too of this thing covering mask.
But that's
Herbert
also
Lom.
known as The Devil's Daughter, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I actually did have a copy of this. This is the weird thing. I have an old VHS tape. It's the little blonde girl holding the snake. Is on the cover.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
And I actually had a VHS copy, but I'd never heard it called The Sect before. And so when you wrote me something in email about La Setta, then I was like, wait a sec, I own The Devil's Daughter. Isn't that the same thing?
I think this is pretty long. This is like 125 minutes. I bet the tape's probably shorter version for America.
I would think
this is like an Italian release.
I've never watched it. So
it's really gorgeous. It's strange. If you like Inferno, you'll like this.
Yeah.
A sure thing. A lot of people don't want to watch Inferno.
Yeah, I like it.
Not these listeners.
Yeah.
I will say really quickly before we jump to our guests that this was my week of Elric purchases. I have not seen Fright Night 2 or Witchboard 2 in like decade.
Oh, okay. You mean the original Fright Night 2?
The original Fright Night 2.
Post a picture of the VHS.
I bought a copy of the VHS and I bought Witchboard 2 on Blu-ray.
Witchboard 2 is good.
So I'm excited to watch them.
Fright Night 2 is better than Fright Night.
I'll be the judge of this next week.
Tommy Lee Wallace is just
the only scene from Fright Night 2 I remember is the one where the guy keeps eating bugs and then at some point he gets slit and all these bugs pour out. And I think that's Fright Night 2. It's like a flashback to my childhood.
Could be. I saw it on TV not long ago.
Yeah.
Either way, the love interest is hotter. That's all that matters.
Yeah, all right. I'll give you that much.
Come on. Who's going to pick Amanda Burse?
Yeah, that's true. I had TV stuff I want to talk about, but quite frankly, I do not want to keep our guests waiting. I'm excited to get him in. So I'll get to that at the very end. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
All right. Welcome back. We are thrilled to have a couple people who aren't bad for humans joining us on the show. We have, I know it's a cheap shot.
So good.
We have the actor, you might remember him from Dog Day Afternoon. That's probably the only thing most of our listeners will remember.
Yeah, right.
Stone Cold. I love Stone Cold.
It is true, though. It's the first time I ever saw him. Lance Henriksen is joining us. Welcome to the show, Lance.
Thank you, buddy.
And a friend of mine, Joe Maddrey, who we've mentioned a couple times on the show. He wrote with Lance the biography Not Bad for a Human, and a comic graphic novel, To Hell You Ride. But he also made a film we've mentioned a few times here. When we talk about our favorite documentaries, it's always on my list, which is Nightmares in Red, White, and Blue, which Lance narrated. And I assume that's how you guys met. Let's start with that. Is that how the two of you got together?
Yeah, that's how we met. But we've conspired ever since. I mean, it was so well done. I mean, the show was so well done. Did you just turn me down? You did, didn't you?
No one's going to turn you down.
Did. I heard about your phone.
You can have any of us anytime.
He's put me under the door. All right, anyway.
You've done this a few times.
So Joe and I started conspiring, and it was a perfect balance. He did it again. Oh, I went off my...
You're fine. You're doing good.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm passing out or something.
It could be. How many beers? One beer?
One beer?
No, not even.
Oh, okay.
He's got like
one
half
Stella.
of a Stella.
Yeah, one Stella.
Can I say that?
Yes.
Great beer.
Man, you must be a lightweight now. He's passing out after. That's bad for your rep. We got to dial it back.
But we have the same sense of adventure, adventuring into ideas and stuff. So it really went well. Mm-hmm. And we've been at it ever since. The only problem with Joe and I is that we work great lengths. Like when we did To Hell You Ride, all we got to do it was $1. because we wanted Mandrake to write it, to do the illustrations. And we were content with that. And we did the book. We printed them up ourselves and sold them at conventions and stuff. And we made some money. I mean, we made them all the money back and all that, But it's not like we're hitting the bank over the moon, that kind of thing. And so he doesn't want to work with me anymore.
I'm never going to get a paying job again. Thanks for putting that out there.
Earl Scheib. We're an Earl Scheib company.
Okay, well, good. No. So you need a third member.
No. I mean, everything leads to something else. So we're ready to kick ass with a movie. So
how did you, Joe? How did you think of Lance for the doc?
Well, he's got that voice.
Right.
I mean,
so you knew early on when you.
Oh yeah, he was the only one I wanted. I mean, I actually had lines that I had written, and I didn't try to do Lance's voice or anything, but I would, when I would read the script, I heard his voice, and so it was actually kind of strange being in the recording because.
I'm glad you're married now.
This is getting saucy.
On air seduction
and has a baby. Okay, no, I meant that as a compliment. I don't.
Well, so did
what
I.
Am I saying?
So how soon before you guys initially met and collaborated did you start thinking about the idea of a book? I mean, because you obviously have a very diverse and long career. It must have been interesting to go back and kind of remember everything.
Well,
but were you always thinking of a book, or?
Well, when he broached the subject, I said, I'm not done yet. I mean, that was the first thing I thought. And the other thing was, the most important thing was our deal, which was that if it's bullshit, we just throw it away and never look back. We'll get to a certain point and just go, forget it, man. Why do this to ourselves? And it didn't happen. It started getting more and more. And it took a lot of work for Joe, and it took a lot of work for me to really try to be honest. And I didn't know how honest I was able to be. So.
Well, we built up a little bit of trust by then.
Oh yeah,
we
did
for like a year because when we did Nightmares, we had a 2-hour session. It took 1 hour to do the voiceover for the documentary, and then we sat talking for an hour about the pottery show idea.
That was a scheme of mine to get more money. No, I'm kidding. No, it wasn't. But it is also going out over the waves. So what you say in print seems to have much more force than. So be careful. Tell the truth. Because if I don't tell the truth, then they're going to come back on me.
And and it probably is the most, but it's one of the most honest biographies. I mean, there's a lot of trouble in your past. You were living on your own pretty much by 14, traveling across America. 12. I mean, it's a very unusual, but I think like when you're able to infuse things that might have been painful or tough, and then create a career that's bringing like fans and people joy, it's a pretty amazing transformation.
Those things made me. They made me, because I didn't go to school. So I had to become intelligent somehow.
Right. But it seems to be the difference in acting styles now. It seems to be a lot of people say if you're watching the WB or one of these things, everyone's trained to be an actor from the age of like 8. No one's got life that they bring to the roles. And
you're right. And one of the weirdest things is you see people in acting classes and they're 20 and they're crying because the only horrible experience in their life was their parakeet died and they're reminiscing and reliving it and I thought this ain't shit, I don't really go after this.
Right.
I got more shit to use. I mean, so anyway.
But yeah, I think people, if you haven't read this book, there's some stories in there that just are kind of remarkable for anyone, even if it wasn't, even objectively, if you didn't know Lance as an actor, I think they're just incredible stories. I don't know if the story's in there, but I read it recently and I wondered if it had any impact on you becoming an actor, was Lee Marvin coming into a jail cell.
In jail.
You're in jail for vagrancy.
I was in jail in Yuma, Arizona, and they came in with the movie company swirling around. And everybody was all excited. And all I kept thinking was, can you get me out of here? Because back in those days, it was just for vagrancy. So it wasn't like a big deal. But I got $5 to march, because it was the life of Ira Hayes. And I was marching out in the courtyard, with a bunch of other people in little blue jumpsuits. But I kept thinking, I'm getting out. I know, I feel I'm getting out.
Wow. Yeah. And do you think that had any impression to become an actor, or was it later?
Well, maybe it opened the window that they existed. But, yeah, later.
But they didn't get you out of jail, so.
Lee Marvin didn't get you out of jail.
No, so I said, I'll get back. No matter how long it takes, and here I am. I'll get back.
So how did you get into, how do you even get into an acting school if you haven't, been going to school?
Well, I mean, I didn't get into, I was 30, and I had gotten off a ship. Those days I was sailing, and they happened to be, actually I went to the actor studio when I was 16 and walked in, and you couldn't hear my voice. I mean, I was saying, I want to be an actor. And the guy said, what? And I said, yeah, I want to be an actor. And he says, how old are you? And I said, 16. And he went, get out of here. Just get out of here. And I went, oh, that pissed me off. Because even though I was like hiding behind monotone, there was a fire burning. I mean, I thought I'll be back. I mean, it wasn't an Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of I'll be back, but it was I'll be back. And then when I was 30, they were casting these plays. It was called Eugene O'Neill Sea Plays, the three of them, Bound East for Cardiff, In the Zone. And it was, trying to remember the company that was doing it, but it was a theater in the courthouse. And I walked in, and at that time, I really couldn't read. And so they said, well, you look right for the role, but why don't you read for it? And I said, look, I just came off a ship, and I could build a set. That was my way of
not admitting,
pinned down.
Right.
And then they went, whoa, really? And I said, yeah, but the rivets, I know how to lay it out. It's the forecastle, we'll do that, we'll do this. And I baffled them with bullshit. And I actually did build a set finally. But anyway, they said, well, that's great. Maybe read for it. And I could do the lighting.
Wow.
So by the time I offered
You're directing the play.
my soul,
right,
they gave me the part anyway. And
so it's through the act of acting and reading scripts that you actually taught yourself to read, or did you have to go outside?
Wow.
That's really remarkable.
It took time.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm not stupid. I mean, I never was stupid, but I just didn't have. My feeling was, why do I have to know how to read my own language? I mean, it's going to take away my innocence, and fuck them all. I mean, paper words, phooey, man. That's all bullshit.
But still, your first role was with Sidney Lumet, so that had to be a good kicking off point for a career.
Yeah, but I'd been hanging out at the studio a lot and taking classes with different people and started to get the hang of what it all was. The hard part would be somebody spontaneously asking me to come in and read with James Earl Jones. We're just going to do a read through of Shakespeare. You want to come? And you can't say no. I want to meet James Earl Jones. So we get there, and I go, and I was going, God, I need classes so bad. I mean, fucking, it was like I was acting about acting to become an actor.
Wow.
So, yeah. Anyway,
that's crazy.
It's true. It's true, man. But I'm not. I mean, it's all the defects of my life were maybe in a lot of ways a gift, and in some ways, it makes me more empathetic for people. That have real problems. I'm healthy.
I remember Joe, I think when I first met Joe, I remember him mentioning, especially with Frank Black character, that was something that for you was a real challenge. It's obviously rewarding, but because of that.
Joe, you're so quiet right now. What's going on?
I can't compete with this.
Oh, fuck. I'm going to shut up. I'll give this guy an open door.
Do you want me to tell
here.
his life story?
We can now, Joe.
Tell some of these stories.
I want to hear it from you.
Which is a good point. Is there a spoken word version yet?
Yeah.
Are you going to do one?
Me?
Yeah, of the story, of the book.
Oh, wouldn't that be kind of like nasty? When Lance walked in and
I think Joe could do the first part, and then you chime in. No, it'd be when I walked in.
Oh God, I mean that's like boxers. When Floyd Mayweather walks into the ring, Floyd's saying this, of course, and it gets a little embarrassing.
It could be, yeah, but it would be great. I bet.
But he's a
it would be
billionaire,
great.
so I guess he can afford to be embarrassed.
Now you mentioned Terminator. We have to bring this up because I didn't actually know this today. That's kind of shameful. I had no idea that James Cameron conceptualized the Terminator for you.
I didn't find that out for years.
Oh, okay.
But it's true. But I was doing a commentary for Terminator when it was going to be coming out on Blu-ray with Gail Hurd. And I said, Gail, I got to clear something up. If you've heard that I was going to be the Terminator, I never said it. People were saying it, and I never said that. And every time they said it, I'd start doing battle with them saying, look, I don't know where you got that from, but that's not the case. I mean, I only went in as the Terminator to help Jim, you know, get the movie made. I mean, and what happened was he had painted me as the Terminator and was using it as a painting to show what the Terminator looks like. And he was doing that out of the back of his car. I mean, but anyway, he asked me to go in 15 minutes before him and do the Terminator at them and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And then when he came, I left, and then Gail said, no, you were always going to be the Terminator.
Wow.
And I said, oh, shit. Here I've been fighting the good fight because
Right.
I didn't want to make the pretense, if that wasn't, I didn't think that was true. I didn't give a shit. I just want to see Jim get his movie made. I mean, we were all struggling back in those days, and everybody.
You guys had worked together previously on Piranha 2, correct?
What?
I love that movie.
That's one where they walk.
About that
They walk.
fucking movie. God. Yeah, I mean, I met Jim through that movie, so that was a great thing. And we've done 3 movies together, and it's been a great, exciting adventure to watch him go through go to whatever planet he wants.
Yeah. Literally, right?
And I'm just behind. I'm catching up.
Yeah.
I'm catching up. Charlie Durning told me on Dog Day, he said, you're not going to work until you're older.
Uh-huh.
And I said, what the fuck? Why'd you say that? And I was hurt. And he goes, because you look funny.
Wow.
But it turns out he's right. I mean, it's turned out right. Charlie. So that killed every fucking thing. That shot it all down.
Part of the problem is we have too much to tackle.
Yeah,
so
it's too much.
I think we should start with the new stuff.
Your voice is so awesome that it's intimidating. It's like, how dare do I ask a question to this man? I feel like I have God in these headphones right now.
I want to ask. Have you ever
ask why I picked him for the documentary?
Yeah, it's like, God.
Lance, have you played God? I don't think you have.
No, Morgan Freeman.
Morgan did.
Somebody called me the white Morgan Freeman.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was a compliment.
That is a good. Yeah, I think that's.
I worked with him once on John.
So he's never played God. So.
Someone cast him as God immediately.
Of course.
Morgan's got a little more experience.
We need a God role for you. It's going to happen. I feel it.
Well, let's start with Harbinger Down, because I know that was why you're super excited to come in.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know about it until this, and then when I saw it, now I'm excited too. So let's start as if no one knows anything about it.
Yeah.
And kind of give us a little rundown of what it is.
It's a crab fishing boat up in Alaska called a Harbinger. And what happens is we're out. My granddaughter decides to, come aboard, and while we're crabbing, which we crab at night, during the day she's gonna trying to follow up beluga whales. And I said, fine, that's great. I got a great crew. I mean, the people that are in the movie they're wonderful actors, all of them. And so what happens is we accidentally pull up a piece of wreckage. And then the shit hits the fan. I mean, it starts out. I think she survives, but no one else. So I'll tell you that much. But I don't want to tip the whole story.
Yeah.
But the best. I mean, this.
Yeah, how'd it come about? Because if people don't know, this was a Kickstarter thing.
Yeah, it was Kickstarter, but ADI. I've done 10 projects with them over the years. From Aliens and Pumpkinhead and all of these different movies, and they are the most generous people I've ever been around. I mean. If a guy walks in with an idea, they'll say, okay, you can use that packing crate and we'll help you with any way we can. And it isn't about money. It's about furthering the future of practical effects and people with enthusiasm. And so that's been their reputation forever. I mean, and what they say they can do, they do, and they're honest, and they're really terrific people, all of them. Tom Woodruff and Alec Gillis. Mm-hmm. And Alec... I've been saying to him for all these years, did you ask me if I wanted another beer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Garçon.
Thank you. He looked at your beer and said, no, he's fine, but that one, that's
you tell the story and I'm going to get one.
Okay, go ahead.
But I'm going to pretend like I'm still here. Oh, he's got it. 2, make it 2.
So So all those years I've been saying, guys, you have the talent. I mean, they've got an Academy Award. They've got 100 Deuces and 100 Saturn Awards. I mean, I'm not being literal about the amount, but piles of them. And I said, you make your own movies. You've got to make your own films because you're giving it all away. You're giving all your talent away to guys that are now watching, all the CG rolling in, and they're loving it because now they can second guess everybody and put more blue, that kind of thing, like an interior decorator. And and sometimes they're right, and sometimes they're full of shit. But practical effects is an art form. I mean, these guys are brilliant. I've been watching them for years. And
as an actor, it must be a huge difference between reacting to something physical and somebody just telling you something's there. CG.
Talking about a tennis ball and a green screen.
Right. Yeah. You've done both, of course, right?
I have, a lot of it. But
we got lots of beer.
Oh, nice.
We're getting smashed.
But the opener. Oh, the opener's here. Okay, got it. What are you, Corona? Okay.
Yeah, I believe.
Are we doing an ad?
Yeah.
Are you gonna have
that is a good ad.
Are you going to have to bleep the Corona thing?
Nope.
No.
Joe?
Right.
You don't want to call one? All right, I'll take it.
I mean, I'm genuinely interested, though. Like, I imagine it's actually really difficult to act against nothing. Because, I mean, so much of acting is just reacting to things.
That's not hard. I mean, it isn't any harder than being in New York, when I was a young actor and they painted the stage black because they had no money for scenery, and then they put a chair in the middle of the stage, and then you'd have to create it all.
Right.
So I did that a lot. I mean, and it didn't offend me but theater has language, and that supports the imagination. So, but anyway, these guys, Woodruff and Gillis, I mean, we spent days, weeks, and months on the set together. And I got to know them and really feel connected to them. I have great affection for these guys, all of them, and especially their artists that come in and out. And, there's so many of them. And they are like a core place. You have Stan Winston's studio, but you have ADI and other studios that do practical effects. But these guys invite people in when they need them and pay them, and I mean they're like art supporters as well, So, but I always felt frustrated because every time I said you got to do your own movies, they would look at me, because there is a great deal of money involved in that kind of thing, and so I was like a child throwing a tantrum, saying you've got to, more passionate I was, the worse it got. So when it finally came around, there was like a moment where practical effects houses were not getting as much work anymore, and even the best. And because they were thinking, well, I did a movie once where this jerk said to me, he was the producer or the director, I don't know who it was, and I'm not going to mention the movie, but he said, I said, well, I got to shoot a guy in this thing. Where's my gun? And you give me a plastic toy. What am I going to do with this shit? And he went, no, we're going to put the flash in later. And I said, no, wait a minute. The physical reaction of a bullet, of a blank going off is paramount. Because otherwise it's a bunch of actors acting that a beluga whale has just come through the window. No,
right.
It's not going to happen.
Huh.
And so it kind of, I realized just from that moment, later on, what was going to happen if CG is the only thing done. There's room for both.
Right.
There really is. And so these guys decided, well, we're going to try it on Kickstarter, which Kickstarter to me is it's so great. It's so great. If you got a shit idea, you're not going to get 50 cents.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a passionate, really good idea and you're honest, it could happen. It could happen. So we went at it. They went at it, and we went at it, and miracles happen. I mean, some really great stuff has happened. And on this movie, you have Skotek, who's got 2 Academy Awards. You've got Academy Award guys that are doing the music. Everybody's throwing in for whatever Alec, who's producing it, and he's directing it, and he wrote it. They're throwing in, and it's karmic payback for all the years of the kind of person this guy is. And so I thought, holy shit, I'm witnessing something incredible. And then we shot the movie, and here you have a guy he's generous, he's kind, and he's sharp, and he's determined, and he's focused, and he surrounded himself with people that couldn't wait to be there. Now, that doesn't happen very often. I mean, that's why I say this is really one of the best experiences I've ever had on a set, because I was there from the very beginning and experienced all of the magic falling together. It's like reverse pickup sticks. It's all falls together. Those sets you saw some of them.
Yeah, and on the website, I think there's a 2-hour behind the scenes.
You saw just the deck.
Yeah.
The snow and everything.
Now, how did they, it sounds like it would need to be, well, one, in the water, and two, really cold. How did they replicate that?
We used, those electric cigarettes? We used those for the breath.
Oh.
Because it was like, 80 degrees in there. But anyway, I mean, we used every trick in the book to pull off this magic trick. And I am absolutely blown away. I mean, when I walked on that set, there was nothing in that room. It was a warehouse about the size of this place. In the same kind of neighborhood. No, I thought I was going to get mugged.
It's a little edgy out there.
No, so I started visiting every other day as they were building the sets. And all kinds of stuff got donated, flats and this and that, and they bought as much as they could afford. And then suddenly this crew came in who are artists, to color these sets and texture them and, build them. It was, man. And I'm a potter, man. When I'm not acting, I make pottery, and I'm ferocious and also experimental and obsessed. That's a hell of a connection. But I recognize
ferocious
labor.
Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. I love it. I really love it. I could go into that, but you don't want to hear it. It's like a girl at the dinner table says to me, Lance, baby, what do you do when you're not acting? And I go, I make pottery. And she goes, check, please.
Ferocious pottery. If you say ferocious pottery, she'll stick around.
Yeah, right.
They're picturing like a little bowl like this. I mean, he makes pottery that's the size of this
I make
table.
pottery.
Whoa. I mean,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But anyway, getting back to the subject and the source, when you see that kind of miracle happen, the best and the best of the best, all working on this thing, and you see it fruition, and then the story happens, and then all the practical effects happen, and man, it's just mind-blowing.
And this is a full-on creature feature for people who haven't seen it yet. It's like, something coming out of the body at the start and then running around the ship. It looks like The Thing and Alien. I saw shades of both.
Well, it's an homage.
Right.
And incredibly, right before we started, Alec said that that's what he's doing, very clearly to the crew and everybody. An homage to a lot of different movies that he loved. And that filtered into all of the people working on that movie, because they were all going, well, I have my favorite too. And so if this is an homage, I'm going to get my favorite in there. I actually brought, when we finished Aliens, the second one, I bought a big winding staircase. It was 20 feet in diameter and, cast iron, and I shipped it home. But with it, I took some stuff from the set, the Prison Planet one, and I brought that, and I brought it into to Alec and said, Alec, we could use this in the engine room or somewhere on the ship, and it's in there.
That's cool.
Cool.
And all kinds of stuff are in there from other movies, and if you're really catching it, it's all over the place. It's wonderful, and so when you have that river of kind of why you're there and what you're doing, and everybody respects each other, it's rare and a wonderful experience. It's like doing a Western. I mean, when I did a Western with Ed Harris, Appaloosa, everybody knew why they were there. And it was, Westerns are not burdened by all of the other trappings, so. And I remember the same feeling, a similar feeling, not quite as intense as working on Harbinger Down, but that feeling of everyone knew why they were there, and there wasn't any, there was no business bullshit going on. maybe for Alec behind the scenes, but he never whined or complained.
And the first footage of that is going to be at Monsterpalooza next week.
See it. Yeah. I want to see it. I haven't seen a frame.
I'm looking at pictures of it right now.
You really?
You can't see. Yeah,
there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff on the website. It's
are you
good.
looking at stills, or are you looking at
looking
stills?
at stills from
I've
the
seen
movie.
some stills, but I haven't seen any scenes.
Oh, these look
Color
great.
corrected. Yeah.
Yeah,
I play the captain of the ship, by the way.
And so they haven't necessarily got distribution yet. It's kind of like early stage.
I can't predict or really pretend I know what state they're in. But we had a producer come in, and his name was Sultan, a really great guy, and he jumped on it, and some other people. I don't want to mention everybody's name because it becomes
right.
But all the people connected, I'm telling you, they came there because they're passionate about what they're seeing. We had people from everywhere, from Sony to Fox. They kept visiting the set going, what the hell is this? How's this happening?
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is cool.
I mean, for you've been here, across a huge industry change, especially towards like studios versus the independent film, because you're now in a lot of independent films.
I love them.
I was going to ask you if you like that change.
Do you guys smoke? You don't smoke, do you? Oh, what a bunch of babies.
Why you need a break already?
Well, yeah, I just put out a lot of gas. But anyway, I have been. Yeah, I've seen a lot in almost 200 films.
I imagine your time on these films gets shorter and shorter, though, because you must go from a studio film where you're on there for 30 days to like somebody asks you to do 4 or 5 days on a film or something.
Sure.
And that must be a very different experience, I'd say.
It is, but I'm better and better at it. I mean, I'm going to do my first comedy.
Oh,
I can't wait, man, because it's a bungling fucking idiot, and I'm going to really enjoy every minute of it. It's physical comedy too, which is part of it, and I'm excited about it.
Joe showed me one a couple months ago where really I thought it was one of your best performances in the last few years. Was It's in the Blood.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, I don't even know. On this show, we like to throw people to movies they might not have seen before. The performance in that, it felt very real. As an estranged father. It's one of those, and it's a great trailer online if you track it down.
It's from 2012.
Yeah, I don't know when it came out, but I was just thinking, you're discussing effects people as directors. Do they make, like I was thinking Stan Winston as well, do they make naturally good directors, or are they?
Yeah, because imagine, Stan has to direct the crew around him to make that creature really work. And he has to translate from Jim Cameron or whoever it is and have it go the best it can be. Well, Alec is the same way. I mean, he's worked with his crews and various people, including Tom and everybody. And Tom has been in gorilla suits and pumpkin heads and all of it. Yeah. But you still have to have a director out there giving you a second eye, give you feedback and make it work. Because like all things, practical effects are frail. They're like actors. You smack the shit out of an actor, you're not going to get much out of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You rush practical effects, and it's not gonna work for you. He has to know how much effort to put in, when to put it in, and then do it. Well, same thing with an actor. I mean, I've got a little portion of rubberhead in me. I had to say it.
Did Tom actually perform the creatures in Harbinger Down as well? Because I know he usually does that.
No, he's busy making his own film. That's the second film coming out of there.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be like, it's going to happen, man.
I think we're going to get them at some point. We were talking about
we would love to
having them.
They're great guys. They're great guys.
Oh, yeah.
I
went to visit them right before they started the Kickstarter for that to talk about all their work on the Thing remake,
right?
And kind of their disappointment and, how a lot of it got replaced with CG stuff.
Maybe it's a good thing
kind of
because
the evolution of why this came about through that experience.
After we did Alien vs. Predator, we saw a screening, and I heard Alex say it is seamless because he had done a real Predator. And as one moment where the Predator throws a woman across the room, the girl, and he throws one of those things. and it was seamless. The CG and the practical effects were seamless, and it was powerful. It really was. And so he was happy about that. It's not like he doesn't have a physical aversion to CG. It's only that there's a place for both.
Right. Yeah. And those guys.
Well, wait, let them tell you, man, because they're more articulate about it than I am.
Yeah.
But you look back at movies like Pumpkinhead, and they shouldn't work. They shouldn't hold up the way they do. These giant creatures, and somebody's in a rubber suit.
Yeah, rubber
and for
suit
whatever
running
reason,
around.
and it's not just nostalgic. It absolutely is something deeper than that. We take that as reality. You know, it sells what it's saying.
It was the craftsmanship, because I mean, the Pumpkinhead costume obviously had a lot of articulation.
Oh, it had everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there that whole thing, man. It was amazing. It really was.
Yeah, and that's what sold it for me was Pumpkinhead. He moved like a real person. It wasn't, or a creature. It wasn't like a man in a rubber suit running around.
But also, you know, when you see like Iron Man 3 and you have, first there was Iron Man. He was singular. He was the first one. He came out of the desert and kind of had to put himself back together again. And it was like a when I was a kid, I tried to build an airplane out of a propeller off a car engine down the block. And I went and laid it on the log that I was sitting on thinking, I'm going to fly. And it didn't work. And I was so fucking disappointed. I mean, so in practical effects, you have a great intimacy with it. And then when you look at Iron Man 3, there's no longer the singular Iron Man. There were 20 of them in there. And they all were shooting around like penny bottle rockets, you know. I mean, it's just bullshit.
I think you disengage when you start seeing all
you
that.
Do.
You just kind of come out
through the fucking guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's, excuse my French.
You're fine.
When you were when you were a kid, did you remember any genre films that through practical freaked you out?
Yeah, there was
Thing, like everyone else.
The Thing.
Everyone's. It's like so many
the black
people
and
from
white one.
Right. Yeah, so many people from that period.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, when I saw it, I scared the shit out of me. And I remember it was daylight when I went in, and at night it was dark when I got out. And I remember I was so scared to walk past doorways that I walked down the middle of the street. I was on the yellow line, you know, walking down. Just please don't let him get me. It was great, that movie.
Yeah, and yet now you'd look at it and go, oh, he looks kind of silly.
No, I've seen it recently.
Yeah, but it's something practical about it.
I gave a copy to Alec and said, Alec, you got to take what's valuable out of this. And there is an element in that of overlapping dialogue, which I love that movie for that reason. I mean, those guys were just jamming it. It was
the
like
director.
Jazz.
That's kind of his thing. He would always have this like intense,
but that's
fast-moving
life.
dialogue.
I mean, look what we're doing.
Exactly.
We're not missing anything.
Right.
And the first thing that producers go, well, the sound guy goes, well, I didn't get it, you know, because they're overlapping.
The mix,
Was his
why
Girl
don't
Friday
you go
also
soak your
Hawks?
head?
That's Howard Hawks, yeah. Hawksian dialogue. I mean, that's kind of it, you know.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
He knows some stuff about Hawks. Hasn't he been writing about the Westerns lately?
Oh, yeah. Well, he sure. I mean, he did... Red River, I guess was his big, his big breakthrough. But that Red River, John Wayne.
Oh, John Wayne.
Yeah.
Howard Hawks.
Howard Hawks. Oh. John Wayne.
Killer POV, the Western edition.
John Wayne, his thing was...
We'll save it for another show. That's fine.
Overlapping dialogue, Lance.
Yeah. John Wayne would actually slow the shit down. He'd go, well, I'm going to knock your teeth out.
Yeah.
You know, he would put that big fucking pause in there.
Yeah. But he did that in that movie specifically with Montgomery Clift because he wanted to upstage him. And he couldn't. He didn't want to try to talk over him, so he would just slow everything down so that people had to focus.
I don't know what he was worried about. Montgomery Clift was was kind of like a handkerchief in the breeze. You know, I mean, it didn't.
I love him. I love Montgomery Clift.
I do too.
A Place in the Sun. I love him.
But
that's one of my favorite roles.
In a Western?
Oh yeah, well that's different.
Come on.
Yeah. He's a very modern guy. He looks like he doesn't feel like he fits.
Everything
a Western.
about him is modern.
He's modern. Yeah, exactly.
It looked like the gun was going to make him fall to his knees. Right. I mean, it was too heavy.
Yeah.
You know?
What are you saying about Montgomery Clift?
I don't know what I'm saying.
It's a very different show.
No, come on, man. But just can you imagine doing a Western with John Wayne?
No, it must be. It's crazy.
I mean,
did you ever meet Lee Marvin again outside of jail? Like,
that should be the title of the episode.
Meeting Lee Marvin outside
Actually,
of jail.
I was in Beverly Hills at what was the name of that hotel? I think he drank at a bar in that hotel. The Beverly Wilshire?
Yeah, the main one with the...
And I'm walking by the rotating door. It had like one of those doors. What do you call those?
Revolving doors.
Thank you.
Yeah, the first time.
He was coming out, and his hair was down to his shoulders. I think it was around the time he was doing I Was Born Under a
Capaloo or?
Morning Star. I don't know. It was either Capaloo or was that...
He was drinking a lot for Capaloo.
Clint Eastwood. Maybe that Clint Eastwood flick. Right? Clint Eastwood singing. Okay. Ain't Your Wagon or
Oh, yeah.
Run Your Wagon in the Ground or whatever it was. But he was whipping out that rubber, and I went, "Hi, buddy." I shut down because I was thinking, the 2 times I've shut down is with Lee Marvin. I wanted to say more to him. I was going to remind him, you never got me out of jail, you prick. but anyway, but it was with Clint Eastwood was at the screening of Dog Day Afternoon. And I was sitting there, and the lights just started to come up. They were running the shit. You know, the names and all that.
Credits.
And I needed a cigarette really bad, about like I do now. But anyway, and I decided I'm just going to scuttle out of here, and I'm going to head out. And I went out the door, and Eastwood was just going out. And all I'm thinking of is Marlboros. You know, I mean, I'm not trying to do an ad here. I smoke American Spirits.
Your voice just converted so many young children. I want to sound like that.
I know. Yeah. you gotta have anyway. And so Eastwood stopped me and he said, "Nice job." And he put his hand out. He said, "I'm Clint Eastwood." And I went, "Yeah, I know who you are."
Yeah.
And I left.
Wow.
I didn't even say or anything because all I had in my mind was those cigarettes across the street at the delicatessen or the little liquor store. And that's how stupid can you get?
Yeah, but you still ended up working with Jean-Claude Van Damme. So. You know?
Yeah, that was another experience.
Well, that's the funny thing. Hard Target, that was a weird transition to Hard Target, but Hard Target's one of those movies that shouldn't be good, and yet it holds up like you wouldn't believe it. Like, I don't know anyone who doesn't like Hard Target. It's one of those movies like it's, John Woo towards the end. He did great work with it, and everyone in it is actually pretty damn good. It's a really fun movie.
Yeah, he was a gentle, wonderful guy.
But that actually seemed like a very playful role for you. Like it wasn't just a straight villain. I wish I had been
more playful. You know, really? I mean, I actually, I remember the first meeting I had with him. I was puzzled by the logic of the film because in the script he would say, "Well, if you make it to the edge of town, and we'll give you $10,000." And I said, "Well, why isn't he giving him the $10,000 and say, if you make it to the edge, you just keep going, it's yours." And it wasn't in the script, and it was like foolish. I mean, it was almost as if John, because he, spoke Chinese and stuff, may have missed that kind of logic, only because it's not written, so whatever.
But if you have slow motion pigeons, I don't think it matters so much.
The what?
Slow motion pigeons.
They make it all better.
Or diving with 245s in your hand.
Right.
No, but anyway, I remember at the meeting I said, I have to figure out why I'm doing this. Why am I doing these hunts? It's not for the money. I mean, how can it be for the money? And I said, the guy that played my buddy Pick, I said, if your speed limit from war is to feel normal, you have to raise your speed limit just to feel normal. And so I said, well, that's the reason we're doing it. And the other reason is because we were in the French Foreign Legion together, and we've seen a lot. So I depend on him, and So I took it so serious. I mean, I could have had much more fun.
But I don't think it comes off as playful. Don't you think, Joe? It's a fun role.
I think you're talking kind of about your experience of making it, because you talked about how when you would go out on the weekends, you were still Fouchon.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't let it go.
Character.
John Woo said to me, I'm really worried about you, Lance. You got to do a nice guy next movie, okay? And I said, yeah, all right.
What is the nicest character you played? Is there a role that you were the straight nice guy? I can't even. Off the top of my list, I can't see one.
Powder.
Yeah, Powder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I played the town sheriff.
And that's another one that the director then was going to build. Jeepers Creepers was actually intended for you. You were meant to be the creeper, right?
Well,
in his mind.
I was greedy on that one. I wanted to play the creeper, but I also wanted to play the cop. But I thought the creeper, you know, I mean, I wanted to do both sides, good and evil.
Yeah.
And the producer went, "Fuck this guy."
Oh man,
that was it.
There's a lesson here, kids.
I got it. Yeah, I know. Don't be, don't steal the dessert before the fucking main course.
Right.
But no, he's a wonderful director. By the way. Victor Salva, wonderful director.
Yeah, I mean, Near Dark's another one. So did Catherine Bigelow's working with Cameron and Gail and her, is that how you got Near Dark? Because that's one I don't know for you guys.
I think probably behind the scenes, because we didn't know it. Bill Paxton called me. The first I knew about it, Paxton called me and said, "Lance, I just read this Western. It's kind of a vampire Western." And I said, "Oh, cut the shit, Bill." You know, I just didn't respond to it. And then the script got sent to me, and I read it, and I went, "Holy shit." Because it was written like her and Eric Red wrote it, and it was like poetry. I mean, it wasn't written like a normal script. It wasn't written like poetry, but it was poetry.
I always talk about Eric on the show. That I think he's one of the best writers in the genre. He's really just, everything's very simple, you know, with the way he writes and to the point. And I think he's a great writer. Yeah.
But anyway, and then we didn't know we'd all gotten cast in it until the first read through. We come in and there's Bill and there's Jeanette and there's me and I went, "Holy shit!"
How long was that after Aliens?
Not long.
Okay.
No, it wasn't long.
Like a quick reunion.
Yeah, right after about a year or two, I think.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she wisely had said, you know, this is a family, so it'd be very good to have guys that really know and trust each other.
Right, and already have a rapport and all that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And you played him kind of like a really calm cult leader, almost like somebody, or
definitely.
know, which was nice. I haven't seen that with vampires played like that. A similar role to as Escape Noah. Well, for me, it was Escape from Absalom. I think here it was No Escape.
Yeah,
I felt like he was a similar kind of tone to that character, you know, which is another interesting film that I don't know if people watch.
Except one is dying and the other one is going to live forever no matter what.
That's true. The flip side.
We're always dealing with shit like that as an actor. You're dealing with, you know, how do I feel about dying or not dying? Right now, that terrible shit that's going on this airplane not being found.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, man, I've been at that freaking television every day.
Yeah.
And what's worse, what I hate about things like that are all these experts then suddenly emerge giving their theories, and they're all wildly different, and none of them mean anything.
They have a new story.
None of it means anything.
It's nothing, you know. It's
the one thing I got out of it. You know, I remember when Boeing made the 777, they actually put out some tapes, CDs on it. It was the most magnificent building of an airplane that I'd ever seen, and I remember even watching it, and when the plane finally took off on its first flight, I was weeping from the CD. I mean, it was very dramatic that America and our ingenuity had built this unbelievable airplane. And here we are, you know, years later, and this plane is missing. And I really feel bad for everybody, including Boeing. I mean, because it would be like, you know, this guy that died in the car crash. It's like blaming the car for what's gone on, you know, and couldn't we make the car better? You know, like a Volkswagen with 500 sets of tires on it. You know, I feel bad for everybody involved.
It's very hard to believe there's a button you can just go invisible. It's hard to believe, but obviously if you know what you're doing.
I've flown on it. Have you flown on that? Oh, it's a beautiful airplane. And I love flying on it because of that. I mean, because I watched their whole design attempt.
Oh.
Fantastic.
It is pretty amazing that something can disappear in this world. We feel like we always know what our friends are doing. Facebook, we're constantly aware of where everyone in our life is, and yet somehow 230 people are gone, and we don't know where.
We don't know where.
And that's
like,
strange.
I mean, you could say stupidly that it's like space. People pick them up and suck them off into space.
Right, who knows?
That's probably a theory out there.
I'm sure there's somebody talking about it.
I'm sure, man.
Protein.
But the ironic twist is what it also points out is that there's with all of the arrogance we have about our technology, you know, there's some holes in it, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so.
Absolutely, yeah. We don't know how people are training.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions about the process, the acting process, since you've done it for so long, and you're, you know, obviously so many characters that everybody in this room has fallen in love with.
But
thank
you guys.
But you know, when you've done, 200 projects or so, is there anything at this point that still surprises you about the process? I mean, I thought I read a quote you saying that every film you're resetting to zero in terms of how you approach as an actor.
It's absolutely true.
So, I mean, do you still get
I can't
that?
help it because I'm a primitive. I mean, I'm not, I didn't come from, did you graduate college?
Yes, well, community college.
Okay.
I don't know if that counts.
You? Did you graduate?
I did.
You too. See, I'm the only one in the room that hasn't graduated college. I didn't even go to high school. So I'm approaching it. I mean, I don't know why I'm making this point.
So kids, please drop out of school and smoke cigarettes.
Drop out of school and go get yourself a pack
You
of
will do
cigarettes.
fucking great.
Lee Marvin will bail you out of jail.
And a Stella.
Yeah, life's
You'd
good.
be the coolest guy.
I know.
Say, who's the big
No,
success?
but I wasn't the coolest guy. I was Mr. Invisible my whole childhood. So, but the point is that when you approach things as a primitive, you're absolutely using very primitive devices to keep yourself believing what's going on. And I do. I mean, I go real fundamental. I remember a great acting coach I had, Sandra Seacat, and she put a book down one day in a class, and she put a book down on the thing and said, how many questions can you ask of this book? How many pages does it have? What kind of print's in it? How much does it weigh? Who would read this book? I mean, it went on and on. I could ask 100 questions of that thing. And when I did that, when she gave that exercise, it stayed with me because it's a primitive idea. We don't invite ourselves to ask enough questions, and if we do, then by the time I arrive on a set, I have more questions about the story than the director or the writer because I'm personalizing it. Because I'm not just a guy who recites it. If you need a reciter, you go to England for that.
Have you had characters you just couldn't break, like where you've read a script and you were interested and you've been offered something and you just couldn't crack who that person was?
Well, like I said, if a director slaps you in the mouth, you're going to shut down. Early in my career, there were some directors I ran into that were real pricks, and they would shut you down. They shut everybody down. And then I have lunatic directors later on that came on the set and they had teddy bears and director's chairs, and they were actually talking to them.
Oh, wow.
What?
So I bought a teddy bear and ripped his head off in front of the guy. And he went, Lance, that's not funny. That's not funny, buddy.
As soon as the show ends, he's going to tell me who, and I will never fucking tell any of you.
We will be paying to get this information out.
I'll let Rob get back to his question, but when you were talking about early parts of your career, it must be one thing I was thinking that must be really weird is acting in something that doesn't get much of a release, and then like 30 years later, something comes out, and this year was The Visitor came out. And no, I know you're going to have stories, but what I'm going to tell you, but calm down. Don't break the bottle yet. I saw it, and I got to tell you, it's a fucking entertaining movie. It's just not a good movie. And so but there's something happening in that movie.
It is so fascinating.
Like
to
John
watch.
Huston is fascinating and Frank O'Near is fascinating, but you're playing quite I think you're a great owner of a Georgia basketball team. I think you did a great job. And I think your team had a genuine shot.
We were there with you.
You know what that movie is like? It's like going into a supermarket and just start throwing everything off the shelves.
It is. Literally, there's a good story somewhere in there, but it's lost.
Somewhere in there,
Which is entertaining. When somebody does it, you watch them and go, this person's crazy. What are they going to do next?
But I worked with John Huston. All my stuff was with John Huston.
And he's great. And John Huston's actually a good actor, too.
He's
I think.
great.
He's a great actor.
He's great if you're just watching him eat a sandwich.
Right, exactly, yeah. And his dad was a great actor. But that film I've heard a lot of stories about the director kind of being out of control. But when you're actually in a moment like that, I imagine as an actor, no matter who the director is, you have to somehow find a way to make the best of it.
You do.
And find a way to keep going, right?
I'm a survivor. I mean, obviously, I'm a survivor.
Yeah, do you have many memories of that? Because that was early. That was pretty early on.
Sure, it was. But I'm a New York actor.
Right.
And so the guy's name was Giulio Paradisi.
Or Michael Paradise.
Yeah, Michael Paradise. and I was doing a scene early in the movie, and I was putting my hand on the banister, and I'm looking, trying to figure out what I'm going to do here. And he grabbed my hand, and he pulled it over, and he says, no, do it. And he had a translator, and he was like shooting bullshit out at me. And I said, if you grab my hand like that again, I'm going to punch your fucking teeth out. Don't touch me. You can say whatever you want, but don't grab me. I'm not a puppet.
Yeah.
That was the way I was.
Right, yeah.
And I didn't mean it like I want to be a killer. I just, he caught me and made me emotional.
Right.
I got a little string in my back. You pull it and something's going to happen.
Right.
But I hated that movie, man.
Yeah. Oh, no, I mean, but back to the basketball scene.
No, it's batshit, but there's something about it that is appealing to
Total
watch.
batshit.
And I haven't figured out what it is yet, but there's something about
it's
it
like
that's
a rip-off of
mesmerizing.
it seems to be a rip-off of every Italian's imagination of an American kind of sci-fi horror film.
Totally.
That's
it's like
what it is.
all mixed into one. And then throw in a scene with Sam Peckinpah being
which
dubbed.
is different than Alec doing a tribute.
Right. Yeah, of course.
It's different.
Right.
Of course.
He's got fucking taste.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really strange. But I'm just thinking that there is something funny that you can do a piece of work that's kind of largely not even, it's kind of forgotten as soon as it comes out. And then 30 years later, something comes out and it creates a stir.
I keep saying to people, don't blame me for that.
Yeah.
But you're also talking about the viewing experience. You're
right.
seeing from the outside.
That's right.
The experience
That's different.
of making it.
Right.
And it's hard to separate.
You can never experience a
You
film.
know, my only wonderful moment in that movie that I remember is we finished the scene. John Hughes and I finished the scene together. And he said, Lance, I don't want to come back. So I want you to, we're going to do the lines now. And I said, oh, okay, John. And he got the sound guy over with a little boom. And he went, and the sound guy rolled it. And I'm just staring at him. And he said, well, what's the matter? You have the first line. And I went, I kind of froze up, John. I just got my first fucking direction from John Hughes.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty
which was, we're rolling.
Right.
And I mean it. I mean it.
That's pretty wild.
I was like vibrating down to my fucking toes.
Yeah. I love that there's better directors acting in the movie than there is directing the film.
Oh, yeah.
You would happily work with Peckinpah. You would happily work with Houston.
Shit.
It's like,
yeah, but you know,
it's wild.
You take what you can get.
Right, sure, yeah.
If you're hitchhiking, you can't demand a certain car.
Of course. Yeah, no,
you can't demand a certain car.
Yeah. You had other acting classes.
Well, you know, I mean, there was that, and just with directors. I mean, you already mentioned Jim Cameron and Catherine Bigelow. You've worked with Sam Raimi, John Woo. You know, all these great directors.
Jim Jarmusch.
Jim Jarmusch.
I love Jim.
And that's a great role.
He's my hero.
Yeah, every amazing director. I mean, so. How important is that, you know, kind of connect? Are they all different? Did you learn something different from all those directors?
Every one of them is different.
It's always a different story.
Every movie is different. I mean, you know, the reality is when you get a group of people like us sitting around a table, we are a chemistry. A chemistry is happening, and it's out of our control. And the same thing happens in movies. I mean, you could have one guy in there that you know, is like really burning out the whole thing and killing it. Or you can have people that are magically almost, things are happening that are just wonderful. I mean, that's what keeps me doing it. I'm not bored with acting at all. If I ever do, I'll retreat to the pottery shop.
Right.
And, you know, but no, it's not going to happen. I mean, not if, unless, and you know, Jim said something to me that really freaked me out. He said, "Come on over. We're doing some scenes from Avatar, and I'll show you this new technology. And it's this thing you put on." And he said, I can have you say some certain words and do certain things, and I can do whole movies without you."
Oh, yeah.
And I said, "I'm not fucking coming over there." No way, man.
Well, when people are talking about resurrecting Bogart or something, and you're like, why?
Well, I've already seen it. I've seen.
Freaky.
Who have I seen? I saw a Bruce Lee in a commercial.
They did the Frank Sinatra where he was, or
they
was
did
it?
That?
There was, or it may have been.
There's a whole Tales from the Crypt episode, where they did the Bogart.
Oh, I love
Tales. I remember the Bogart.
Yeah,
you're in one of our favorites. We were talking about one of our favorite episodes.
Yeah, I love that one.
That's a great one.
I remember one
Walter
where somebody.
Hill, man, I love that guy.
It was an old commercial where somebody was dancing with a broom. And it
was
Gene
Kelly.
Gene Kelly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Are you in any Walter Hill features?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Johnny Handsome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Mickey Rourke. He's one of our favorite directors. He's so good.
Oh, I love Johnny.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, he's God. I hope down the road we do something again. I mean, I just love that guy.
You ever seen that? What's the Nick Nolte Powers Booth film? Executive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That film just Extreme Prejudice.
When
it's incredible.
I interviewed Walter Hill for the book. He said, "I really want to do a Western with Lance," and I just about lost it because that would be.
you could have made that happen right there.
I'm waiting in case he hears this podcast.
I think I got a little overexcited because he got quiet. Said, "Oh, you need to do it. You need to do it. I'll call Lance right now. You guys need to talk about this."
So
he got really quiet because I had been fairly composed.
I would actually get a facelift to do a Western with John.
A permanent smile on your face. I think that's a good.
Look like from Planet Beverly Hills,
right? One of our friends online, Sean Keller, asked a question about playing Bishop and like where you drew, basically how you defined a character based by making him more human, because he's incredibly human, and yet how you kind of figured out where he isn't quite human. How you kind of constructed that character, I guess.
Well, that was an interesting moment in my life because I had two things going on. One was I'm going to do the kind of work I've always wanted to do in this movie because it's such a, this was like the power of Jim's work was like sort of exponentially getting greater. And I knew this was going to be a good movie, an important movie for me anyway. And I thought, I had seen Ian Holmes, I've seen, what Rutger Hauer did, who I love their performances. I mean, Rutger's performance in Blade Runner was
one of my favorites.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
emotionally.
Just that scared the crap out of me when I was a kid too.
Yeah.
When he picked that guy up and by the fucking arm and saved his life, and then told him about knowing he's going to go, he's not going to be around.
Yeah.
I thought I can't compete with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
They're just great. And then I thought, don't. It just like a light bulb went off in my head. Don't. So what? I had to ask very serious questions of myself and saying, well, what about me is like that circumstance? And I remember when I was 12, it was better for me to hit the road than to stay in the danger of where I would have been if I'd stayed home, because there was a lot of stepfathers and shit. And I thought, and I felt kind of helpless about it in the sense that if I made a mistake, I could get really hurt, so I knew that. I knew that part. And I thought of Bishop that there's the emotional life when I was 12 was I looked at, I tried to turn it positive with grown-ups because I thought if I'm going to outlive you, you're going to get shitty and old from your behavior, and I'm going to outlive you. And so I can forgive you because I know I'm going to outlive you. And then, for certain things. And I started building it based on how I felt when I was 12 with a powerless 12-year-old. And the only thing I had was to try to do be kind, do the right thing. I mean, not that I was like a little sweet kid. I wasn't. But knowing as an adult, looking back on that, I thought, well, also that I would be like a black kid in South Africa during apartheid. If I make a fucking mistake, something's going to happen to me. So I gotta tread water. And all of those elements were in me when I was doing it. In fact, when I was in London shooting, I thought at times I'd be standing on the street corner and not knowing where the fuck I was or where I was going. I kept that thing alive because I knew it was important to do it. And that's the way I work. Again, it's primitive stuff, but that's the only way I know how to work. I had to commit to what part of me was like that character. I actually made sclerals for my eyes that had two pupils in each eye. I spent my last $1,500 on them, and because I thought maybe Bishop, when he got alerted, he had two pupils in each eye. You could see like.
That's interesting.
And I told Jim about it because I had him with me when I went to England, and he said, "Oh, well, we'll try it. We'll try it in one scene." And then he shot it, and the next morning he came in. He said, "Lance, I saw the dailies on that." He said, "That is more scary than the fucking alien." we can't use it. We cannot use it.
That's funny.
Give it a whole other movie.
Yeah, it's a whole Bishop the fucking Oh God,
crazy. You can Google that. I think that's right.
But it was like building. It's like building.
So you really go into your life and you go into these personal things and to draw from and create something new from.
I don't have any other way of working.
Yeah.
I just don't know any other way.
Yeah.
Like most actors, is it hard for you to be objective of your work? I mean, can you sit
Totally.
down and see Aliens and be like, this is a great movie?
Totally. I don't even watch my movies. I don't. If they come on television, I don't watch them because I'll look at it and be embarrassed.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck was I thinking then? You know, I mean, it's not what it's about. It's
Right.
They keep hiring me. I must be doing something right, I guess.
Right. Another fun one I wanted to mention really quickly was a friend of the show's, Ryan Schifrin, did a Bigfoot movie called Abominable a few years ago. Oh. And one of my favorite things about it was they added a scene to put you and Jeffrey Combs together because I think at that point you guys hadn't worked together yet.
No. I'd done Pin on the Pendulum.
Well, we actually did.
The Pendulum.
Oh, the Pendulum, that's right.
But I don't know if you had to share a scene.
Right.
Because we had Stuart Gordon here a few months ago.
That's right.
And he said that's an intense role. That has to be one of your most intense on-screen performances. I mean, that was insane.
It was totally nuts, man. God. I could tell you some stories about that movie, but anyway.
We do have a podcast.
Yes.
If you would ever like to tell some stories.
We are here.
I go off on these fucking tangents, and it's like,
Well, you've done 200 films?
in the book.
Yeah, it's in the book.
Okay. Yeah, get the book.
Yeah, that's a good reason. And we're going to have a couple of giveaways. So.
Monsterpalooza, we're going to be selling the books down there.
Yeah.
And showing some scenes from Harbinger Down, right?
Harbinger Down is going to be there, and Alec is going to be there, and Tom, and all these wonderful people are going to be there. I hate to use the word wonderful, but it's true.
Right.
It's not part of mine. I don't walk up to somebody and go, "You're wonderful." My little girl does that. I have a 14-year-old, and when she was 8, she'd walk up to a total stranger and go, "Do you know how wonderful you look today?
Aww.
The way you're dressed."
That's funny.
Man or woman. If she felt it, she'd say it.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
she's a
sweet,
great
though.
kid.
Wish more people were like that.
I remember, I had an experience like that, and it'll make you laugh. I think I was like 20 years old, and my girlfriend was across the street, and I'm walking down the street, and I saw Bill Paxton. And he was with like 2 kids and somebody else.
Kids,
And I walked up to him and I told him, I just said, "Oh, I really liked you in this movie." And he said he had just been in New Zealand, which is where I was from, shooting that climbing.
You're from New Zealand?
I'm from New Zealand. He was in the climbing film.
I like New Zealand.
Yeah, it's a good place. And he was super cool. And he's talking to me just like we're just having a conversation. But to me, this was a big deal. And I remember like a few minutes later, I told the girlfriend. They kind of believed me, but they didn't care. And I kept walking. And then I turn a corner, I see Bill Paxton and his kids, and he like grabs his kids and they all start waving at me across the street. Like I was the celebrity. And that made me feel like $1 million.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, what a cool dude, right?
Thoughtful
it's like, yeah, it's
shit.
cool.
He's a
it's
good
like,
guy, man.
You gotta love people like that.
Yeah,
he was a scary fucking Near Dark.
Oh shit!
Yeah, he's a great
kid.
Severin, right?
Yeah.
A great character.
We're up in. We're going to be in Calgary. They're going to have a reunion.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Up in
yeah.
For Near
Calgary.
Dark.
Sigourney's going to be there.
No, for
everybody.
Aliens.
Oh,
They're
for
gonna do
Aliens.
Oh, for Aliens, yeah.
reunion, yeah. That's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I love Bill. He's a funny guy, man.
He really seemed. Is there characters? I know you don't. You were just talking about being objective with work, but are there film roles you've done on some of the smaller films that you feel haven't found their audience yet, and just even titles that people might be interested? I know for me, I've talked about Nature of the Beast before. To Joe, just in terms of a really, really good performances on both sides,
Yeah, that was
mirroring
wonderful.
each other really well.
I like that movie.
And I think I don't think a lot of people have seen that one. I think that they should.
No, there's another one called Bone Dry.
Yeah, see, I haven't seen that one. I'll write that one down.
Yeah, Bone Dry.
Is that
good.
recent or from?
Not long ago.
Oh,
Okay.
who was the director of that? Man.
Some guy. I've worked with 200 directors.
No, that one I know. I've heard about that
It's
Let me
one.
try to
from
remember.
2007.
Yeah, it was. Oh God, he's working with what's his name now?
Yeah, with Jason.
Huh?
He's working with Jason
Jason?
Morris.
Jason Morris.
Jason Morris. But I can't remember the director's name.
Shit.
Bret Hart.
Bret Hart. Thank you.
The wrestler?
I just haven't. I haven't even talked to Bret Hart since that movie was done. It's a long time ago.
Tom Holland knows him pretty well, and he's the one who told me about that movie. So that's why I know
it's good. It's not bad. It's kind of a tight little movie. And but there's another one called Nevermore that's going to be coming out, and there's I got a lot of movies coming out all over the freaking place, and I watch them once and that's it, and then I try to connect, with what I thought we did and see if it's there.
Mm-hmm. Are you surprised? What's the convention experience like from you meeting these fans?
I like
Are you
that.
surprised by them bringing up some of these titles?
Well, I always By who? People?
But just the fans coming up to you at conventions.
I call them the tribe.
The tribe.
Yeah.
The tribe. No, but they bring it up, and I sometimes they catch me, man. I don't remember that. We have a Facebook page, and the guy that runs it, because I don't really go on Facebook that much. I just go on to check out what it's looking like, and he tells me about this movie. Or he says, well, where are you going next? And I said, I'm going to be going to Houston. And he said, for what? And I said, I don't remember. You get jammed, man.
Yeah.
It's just jammed.
Because you must be doing more movies than you ever did per year, right? Because they're shorter shoots, right? So you must be.
Yeah, exactly. That's the reason.
So when you were shooting Millennium, you must have been shooting how many episodes a year doing a series?
We did 23 a year.
Okay, so that's a lot. Wow.
That was huge, man.
And did you internalize that character a lot?
Yeah.
So that was like a darker period.
Very dark.
He's and that's been besides Bishop, that must be the character most people ask you about. I'd imagine.
Yeah, maybe.
Frank Black.
It really was. My wife at the time used to say, "Hey, Frank, can Lance come out and play?
Yeah,
please, on the weekends." I had one day off a week, really. So it was like.
And the fans for a long time were trying to get more Millennium or a Millennium
movie.
They're still doing it.
Okay, so it's still
there's a book that came out called Back to Frank Black, and it's a very well done book. And it all has to do with. Chris Carter wrote something for it, and all the directors that were on it, and all the actors that were in it, they all wrote parts of that book, and it's out. I mean, it's a good book, Back to Frank Black. And then, I really believe that there is a movie in it.
The funny thing is, though, you just were talking about the benefits of Kickstarter, and that's exactly the kind of project that seems to be gathering momentum. There was a show called Veronica Mars that's for a pretty young generation, but it made $5 million. I think, and then they shut the film, and it's just come out, and people say it's good.
Yeah,
but it seems like that's the kind of thing where you could bypass studios. If you have the right person leading the charge,
own it, so people
exactly. That's the tough part.
Chris Carter and Fox.
Right.
Chris, if Fox and Chris ever wanted to do it, I've lived a lot since we did that show,
right.
And one of the things I really have a great belief that there's a fandom out there for it.
Yeah,
because.
Because Soylent Green is people.
There's a lot of people. Yeah.
That was the first spoiler I ever saw in a TV show.
Which one?
Your password to your computer was Soylent Green is people. Yes, and I remember going, I don't know if many people had seen the movie. I was like, that's a spoiler. You can't watch Soylent Green again. Are there directors out there who you've just always kind of wanted to work with, who you just haven't, it's never come around? Is there anyone whose films as a fan, maybe you've enjoyed? Or do you not get to see many other films?
Del Toro, when I met him, right now I'm doing the voice of one of the main characters in The Strain. It's coming on FX.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and so...
is it animated?
That's the TV show.
Yeah, but you're doing
some
the
of
voice?
it is. Some of it. No, it's acted.
Okay.
But there is a CG and a real person. But this character, the master, is like he can't do all the things that they want him to do, so they got a CG part of it, I guess. But he, to me, is a great director.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because when I met him in Toronto years ago, and he was like a big teddy bear. And he said, Lance! And he was one of those guys I never met. And I went, Guillermo, how are you? And we hugged each other. It was like there's some plan.
Yeah, working you together.
Come from out there somewhere. Yeah, but there's kindred souls out there, I really believe in that.
Yeah.
I really believe in it. If it's meant to happen, it will. Like our comic, To Hell You Ride, our belief from the whole time we were doing it was going to be a movie. It wasn't to discourage, the comic book aspect of it. Because we hired one of the great writers, great artists, which is Tom Mandrake. And it fruitioned. We did it all together. It was wonderful. And my belief is that it will happen if it's meant to happen.
Yeah, and how can people get the comic? Because it's Dark Horse, right?
Yeah, you can order it.
It's a graphic novel now.
Yeah, the graphic novel.
Right.
You can get the limited edition.
And there's certainly a role in there for you, because I noticed one of the characters was drawn exactly like you.
Looks like me.
The captain.
I mean, my desire is to have Jason Momoa play Two Dogs, and you know, there you go. Guillermo, if he wants to direct it, if he wants to, he probably could.
Yeah.
You heard that, Guillermo.
You heard it.
You heard it.
But Eli Roth, you weren't listening.
He listens. No,
they both have it. But.
They do? Okay. He does? Yeah, I mean, I always just think it must be fascinating to make, and also working with young talent must be one of the fun parts of independent filmmaking. Must be these new people who are, you know, you have all this wealth of experience. Do you ever find yourself having to give them lessons on the filmmaking process, or do you hold back?
No, I wouldn't be that bold. You know? I mean, I'd slip it in.
Right.
They wouldn't know. You know what I mean? But I've worked with a lot of first-time directors, and it's a pleasure because their hunger is there, and I like that. I mean, you know, and so you just kind of you ask the question. You know, at the right moment, you ask the question. I wonder if this would work. You know. What if, you know, those are great phrases to use, because then nobody is responsible for owning it. But would you like to try it? You know, that's a different thing. So, I mean, I really love my work. I mean, I love doing it. I'm not talking about the outcome, but I'm talking about I love doing it.
And there is a pottery film. I remember.
How did you know that?
I remember from years ago. I remember that you had the Mad Potter.
Check, please.
I think it's time for the Mad Potter. Before we end this show, we have to discuss the Mad Potter. Who was the Mad Potter?
A guy named George Orr that was raised, you know, lived in Biloxi, Mississippi, back in the, 1860s. You know, after Lincoln had been killed. But his father was Russian. That was a blacksmith, and George, worked for him, but he knew that wasn't his calling. I mean, Biloxi at the time, I mean, in my mind, was probably the most beautiful place in the world to be, because it had, there were oysters being harvested, and all the roads down there that were dirt roads were covered with these mother of pearl oyster shell, crushed oyster shell, and the harbor in Biloxi is the stillest water in the world, unless there's a big storm, or a tidal wave coming in. But it's a beautiful place in the deep South, moss in the trees and everything. But George, when he got into pottery, he actually met a guy over in New Orleans who taught him how to make pottery, and he ended up being so far ahead of his time with what he was doing and his approach to it and everything else. And he was so eccentric because he had a vision of the way the world ought to be. And he had 10 kids, and he called them his babies, and he called his pots his babies. And like the town of Biloxi decided, well, we're supposed to put a sewer in, but we can't do it right now. So George got pissed off, and he started digging the sewer for the town by himself. And then they arrested him and brought him to court. But he was. When I see it and see his life, I want to play him desperately, because pottery, ceramics, clay is a labor. I have ultimate respect for labor because I've done it my whole life. I mean, before I was an actor, I had to work because nobody gives you shit. I mean, you have to work for it. Like digging fruit trees in the winter with sneakers on and in the rain. It doesn't. You have to go for it, and I can relate to that because there's a stillness and a respect in labor that I love, and his life is like the ultimate version of that. And it's called, they call it. There's a book out called The Mad Potter of Biloxi, and even while he was alive, he actually sent a pot that he did that was almost 5 feet high, with his life story on it. He sent it to the Smithsonian while he was alive, and they sent it back. And guess where it is now?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So Guillermo and Walter Hill, if you're listening. and to Joe, I have to ask this question. Having just had one child, can you imagine 10?
I'm leaving now.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine how you're doing too.
If I wasn't so old, I'd have 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
I love raising children.
Oh, yeah.
I have 2 girls, 26. Her name's Alchemy, and a 14-year-old whose name is Sage.
I think there's a process of forgetting that happens over time.
It does, yeah.
I think that's it. Right
well,
now,
women
my
forget.
wife has already forgotten labor.
Oh yeah,
I think
the
that's
pain
a
of
necessity.
labor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Our daughter's 1 year old, and right now my husband keeps talking about a second, and I'm like, "Are you kidding? There's no way. There's no way." She's like downstairs
it's up
crying.
to you to bring it up.
When you're
Shredding
sitting,
things.
When you're sitting up at 3 a.m. And,
Hey, I
and that
love
thought
New
crosses
Zealand,
your
by the
mind.
way. I really do.
It's great. That's why I'm
I've
here.
known her a few times.
Oh, you went? Yeah, I think you went for a convention. I remember when you might have gone.
There was a New Zealander who lives in Australia now, but we did a short and a kind of anti-war film. It's called A Message from Fallujah, and he's a New Zealander, but we did it down there. And also, I was down there with Jason a couple of times, and yeah, I mean, I love New Zealand.
Well, I heard Jim Cameron had just bought a bunch of real estate and was probably
he
moving,
sure did.
and he's going to permanently live there while he does Avatar 2 and 3.
Yeah, if I made that kind of money, I would too.
Right. He probably bought one of our mountains, our volcanoes. And
No, it's actually a dairy farm.
Oh, it is?
And
Yeah.
everybody was pissed off because they thought, oh, he's going to wipe out the dairy farm. It's been here forever.
Right.
And Jim says, no, let the guy that owns it, even though I buy it, he can run it.
Yeah.
And leave me alone.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, look, Weta is one of the few companies that's going to be around 10 years from now. There's a lot of these effect houses that won't be around, but Weta is really hitting their stride. So I think a lot of more films will start going down under, because of the work
Whether
they're
they
doing.
do or not, I mean, it's not, the movie business is not like in the old days when they pumped out 500 movies a year, or, I mean,
Right.
and people are on contract. And everything. Today, it's more like, it's more singular than that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be running all the time. I mean, why not
Right.
make a good life and make a movie when you really want to? And,
I like that.
I hate the the idea of you have to cut the whole forest down because you figured out a great toothpick.
Right. Well, I think that might have been Lord of the Rings. The first the first time it worked. The second time, it's kind of like milking the cow.
And the third time, what are these little guys with the big feet running around?
You're like, who cares?
It didn't engage me.
Who cares?
No.
I couldn't even keep up. There were too many characters in the
Oh, I
last
know.
one.
And
I was
yet-
like, I don't even know what's going on
They're all
anymore.
British. Are they all British?
They are. A lot of them are. Some are from New Zealand.
What the hell? What
the smaller
happened?
roles.
Guys, let them all come down there.
Yeah, it's crazy. But you know what? I really think it's a case where Guillermo would have done a very different movie with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would have been very interesting. He was down there for 3 years developing it. And then it just kept getting delayed. The money kept getting delayed. So he left the project. And then Peter Jackson was forced. At no point did he want to direct those films.
Really?
The Hobbit films.
Oh,
And
see, I don't know shit about
Yeah.
this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it was
but-
just a shame because I knew a lot of people who would meet Guillermo down there, and he was so excited about it. And he had a whole, it was like Pan's Labyrinth going to Hobbit Town would have been exciting, but would
have been grittier,
I feel
I'm
like the
sure.
new films show a guy who didn't really want to be there, but still knew how to do it. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, all these guys. I mean, I don't judge anybody, man.
Yeah.
I just if it resonates with you, it does. If
Yeah.
it doesn't, it doesn't. Certain people. Wow, Pan's Labyrinth. Holy shit!
Yeah, it's
That'll
incredible.
make you cry.
Yeah.
I got 2 daughters, man. That make you cry.
Yeah. Well, we know
You got one now.
Yeah,
I have
You got the
one.
boys.
Yeah.
We got the girls.
I got a girl.
this guy's
got a
next.
girl?
Rob's
Yeah.
just getting ready to go. He's
No,
kidless
not
for
gonna
now.
Hey,
happen.
what is that? What is that?
That
that
is
out of
from
Star
Buffy the
Trek?
Vampire Slayer. No, that's actually Glory's robe. We're looking at a costume that they have up here in the studio. That is Glory's robe from Buffy.
That's pretty nice
Yeah.
material. I like it.
Yeah, she played a god, and that's what she showed up as in a couple episodes.
I like the. Yeah, I like it.
Y'all don't know your Buffy history.
Hey, Buffy.
Well, we want to mention, so Not Bad for a Human will be signing at Monsterpalooza.
Yeah.
You guys will be there with the Harbinger Down.
Yeah.
Uh,
With posters. And
That's next
pictures.
next weekend.
Not this weekend,
Yep,
but
next
yeah.
weekend. We'll be there as well. We
Cool.
also,
What are you going to do there?
I think we're just going to come say
Hang
hi.
out,
fans.
walk
Are you
around.
going to come with your microphones and shit?
I don't think to this one. I think
I don't
we're
think so.
Yeah, we're talking about some other conventions to do some of that. But
Texas Frightmare, I will be. Are you at Texas Frightmare?
No.
Okay, I'm
I'll
at.
be in Calgary.
We're at Texas Pop Culture Expo in Cleveland.
Is Robert Englund going to be there?
I don't know. I don't think he's on the list yet. I'm
You guys
doing
are
why
cool,
you're going to
man.
avoid being there if Robert's there?
No.
Are you gonna-
Did it sound like that?
oil and vinegar.
I'm sure so there's some of those. We'll talk about them
But I
after
think
the.
I am booked. Are you doing Phoenix Comic Con?
No.
Okay, man. I thought I saw your name on the guest list. I got excited.
Really?
Yeah.
They haven't offered me anything.
But if you live in
Comic-Con,
Phoenix,
call Lance.
guys, it's been an absolute.
Oh yeah, thanks for coming on. We have two. Joe was super nice enough to bring 2 copies of the book and 1 copy of the graphic novel. So we will do some sort of giveaway on our Facebook page.
Oh, good.
On Friday, and maybe we'll tie it into something to do with Monsterpalooza to make sure people are showing up and going down there.
And I have to say, and these guys can vouch, never in the history of the show have I brought something to be signed.
This is true. This is true.
Professional.
I brought something today. This is my VHS
I've not
copy.
seen this film.
You have not seen
I've never seen Stone Cold.
You
I admit
can sign right over Brian
I've never seen Stone Cold
because you're the star of the film.
Lance, if you have 2 hours to kill, I say we could put it in the VCR.
My mother, I swear to God, my mother saw this. And it was in the theater.
Yeah.
And she came in and she was so nervous that she spilling popcorn all over the lobby before we even got in there. And she was just gesturing, "That's my son." And the pottery's popcorn is going everywhere. Yeah. And she came out and she said, oh God, I love that chains. And I said, Mom, the guy's a psychopath. I mean, he's a fucking outlaw biker psychopath. And she said, she looked at me and said, "I wasn't always a good girl." And I said, "I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know. I already know some of that shit."
I brought that one in because it was kind of one of the things that really made my husband and I bond enough. Like when we were first meeting, because I loved that movie.
Did you go on a motorcycle during a honeymoon?
No, but he is a motorcycle driver. But I had originally seen that when I was in middle school, and it was one of my favorite films.
Middle school.
I watched it over and over on repeat.
How fucking old am I?
I'm sorry.
Jesus.
But then when we met...
You're going to bleep those?
Nah, you're fucking fine. But when we met, it was one of these movies when we were like, "You like Stone Cold? I like Stone Cold." And it was like, it was karma right then. It was just kismet because we both like Stone Cold. Wow. So this is the only thing I've ever brought in to be signed.
And now they've spawned.
Yes,
we
have spawned now. We have a young child who will soon watch Stone Cold.
You turn them on. You turn them on. It's a beautiful thing. Thanks for coming. It's a great time. Have good luck on whatever's next, and we'll all be in line for Harbinger when it comes.
Down. Yeah. We're going to have a ball. You're going to love it. You're going to love it.
It sounds badass.
I'm playing a real nice guy in that.
And Joe, I have a feeling we're going to be seeing you again soon, but we'll keep a lid on that for now. Yep. Thanks for bringing the stuff in.
That wasn't big.
Yeah, not at all. Vote for us. Rondo Awards.
Yes.
That's right. We are nominated for a Rondo Award, and we would like to win it. That would be nice. So
what's a Rondo Award?
It's like the outstanding horror journalism and horror sites and horror movies, and people vote.
Really?
Yeah. It's a little more elaborate. Like they'll go down to best article or best Fangoria
best writer
cover
of the year.
Wow.
It's pretty interesting. So we're in there for a podcast. So
yeah.
Good. It's a lot better than what I got. I mean, they always they say, "Lance, we want to give you a Lifetime Achievement Award," and I go, "Oh, it's going to be written on a bagel with a popsicle stick." You know, yeah, thanks.
I can make that
There's
happen.
no competition for that.
Right. All right. Well, we'll see you guys at Monsterpalooza, and you'll hear from us next week, where our guest is
Graham Skipper.
Yeah.
Almost Human and Reanimated the Musical.
A very funny guy.
Very funny.
It'll be a lot of fun.
All right.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.